The 15th President of the United States, James Buchanan, is considered by researchers to be one of the worst U.S. presidents of all time, particularly due to his failure to respond to the southern states' attempt to secede from the country. After his presidency, Abraham Lincoln was elected, the Civil War took place with devastating casualties on both sides, and slavery was abolished. But Buchanan is fascinating for many reasons, first among them that he was very likely gay. Welcome to the 100th post on LGBT Snapshots. I am personally proud and thrilled. I'm clearly a huge nerd about LGBT history, and I've had so much fun sharing this content with you. I'm so happy that we've gotten into a consistent routine, and we're up to 100 entries. With Scott on graphics, with his company Pixel Zest Studios, and Spencer on social media, and me on writing, researching, and presenting. I feel like we are building a powerful and consistent presence here, telling the stories and history of LGBT people. We are 100 entries in, and we have thousands to go, really. For my 100th entry, I thought I would share the story of President Buchanan, which is among the most surprising stories I have ever come across. This video will be slightly longer than our usual 2 to 3 minutes. James Buchanan Jr. was born in 1791 and lived until 1868. He grew up in a very large family and served in many government positions before his election to president, including the House of Representatives and the Senate in Pennsylvania, the Minister to Russia under President Andrew Jackson, the Secretary of State under President James K. Polk, and the Ambassador to the United Kingdom under President Franklin Pierce. He turned down an appointment to the Supreme Court. He was elected in a time of political turmoil, North versus South, and he planned to make history, but despite his lawyer-trained mind, his military service career, his long political career, and his willingness to make bold and dramatic moves, he was paralyzed politically as the country became divided around him. Buchanan's presidency from 1857 to 1861 was marked by many bold and dramatic moves. Examples: when the Mormons in Utah refused presidential edicts like they had been doing for years, he sent the army to Utah to remove Brigham Young from power, an act that resulted in a short war and Brigham Young giving up his seat as governor. When the famous Dred Scott case took place, which determined that Congress could not make a law prohibiting slavery, it further divided the South from the North. In a push to get Kansas declared a state, Buchanan divided the Democratic Party on alliance lines and ended up losing. Buchanan established new boundaries on the northern and western ends of the United States territories, adding Kansas, Oregon, and Minnesota to the United States during this time, and he racked up a tremendous national deficit. Buchanan did not seek re-election, and the country was already engaging in military conflicts when Lincoln took office. Buchanan spent his last years defending his presidency publicly, and he died at the age of 77 from respiratory failure. It's Buchanan's early life, which is lesser known, that makes his character even more fascinating. In his mid-20s, Buchanan nearly married Anne Caroline Coleman, but the engagement was broken, and Anne died shortly after. Buchanan never showed interest in another woman, and he remained a lifelong bachelor. While some historians argue that he was asexual, simply not interested in sex, there is much evidence to show that he was actually homosexual. For example, Buchanan lived from 1834 to 1844 with William Rufus King, who was vice president under Franklin Pierce. And Buchanan and King together attended social functions, calling their arrangement a communion. Andrew Jackson famously referred to the two men as Miss Nancy and Aunt Fancy, and the two men seemed inseparable, adopting each other's mannerisms and planning a future together. When King moved to France, Buchanan was distraught, and he wrote references to others to wooing other gentlemen in his loneliness. King died a few years before Buchanan became president. While we will never know the truth about their relationship, as much of their correspondence was destroyed by family members, Buchanan occupies a place in history, an unmarried bachelor, very likely gay, who failed to stop the country he loved from going to war. Thank you for tuning in for our 100th entry. Tomorrow we launch an all-new themed week with silent films, so tune in tomorrow. If you learned something, like, subscribe, and share with your friends.